Hey guys, welcome back to ExamNest. So your written tests are done and now it's time to crack the interviews. Your written test is a rejection process where they reject those who could not clear the cutoff, while personal interview is a selection process where they select those who really deserve to be in the college. So an interviewer has hardly got 10 to 15 minutes to judge you, and they rely on their judgments and secondly on how you present your personal disposition in front of the interviewers. So there are some winning factors that set you apart from others and they determine your result. So in your interview, mostly three types of questions are asked. One is the academic questions, second are the HR questions, and third is the extempore, aka the micro presentation. Some colleges prefer considering it in the interview, some might just skip it, so you have to prepare accordingly. Moving to the first type of questions, the academic questions. Since IPM is an academic internship program, so they mostly judge you on your conceptual clarity. So make sure that you are thorough with the subjects that you studied in 11th and 12th. If you are from the commerce background, the questions that are asked are mostly from economics and mathematics. There might be some basic questions from accountancy and business studies as well. In accountancy, general questions like what is trial balance and what is the difference between general reserve and reserve capital, all these questions. And in 11th and 12th also, most questions are from 11th, so you should be clear with the basics of all the subjects that you studied in 11th and 12th. So that was about the academic questions. So the second type of questions are the HR questions, and the most basic and common questions that an interviewer would ask you in under this section would be what are your strengths and weaknesses, where do you see yourself 10 years down the lane, and what are some things that you would like to change in your past, all these questions. So we have a PDF where you can find answers and the best way to give answer to these questions. So the link to which is attached in the description box below, so you can access those PDFs from there. If you're answering about your strengths, don't just start blabbering anything. See if they are really your strengths and portray them in a humble and a polite way. While answering about your weaknesses, don't say that you don't have any weakness, because that just makes you sound arrogant, and also no one is perfect, everyone has some weaknesses. Show your weaknesses in such a way that fits their requirement. For example, you can say that you are a person who looks for perfection in every small thing, and you are a very detail oriented person, in short. So that can come up as your weakness, like you are a person who chases perfection in every small thing, but that might also cover your weakness and can be your strength, because you are a detail oriented person, you look for perfection, that's not a bad thing. So you have to look for weaknesses in such a way that does not give you a negative point but can also impress the interviewers. So the next important area where you can expect questions from is general knowledge. There are two sections under general knowledge. One is static GK and the other is current affairs. So in static GK, mostly the questions are based on the states and capitals of India, the cabinet ministers, economies of different nations, India in particular, and this everything about your state from which you belong. And under current affairs, you should be aware of everything that is happening around you. Like you can take a look into the situation of Ukraine and Russia right now, since the IPL was a hot topic right now. If you have an interest in sports, you should be knowing everything about IPL. And then the elections are also going on in all these states, so you should be knowing the basics, like what all parties are elected in these states and stuff. So for GK, most important tip would be to read newspapers daily. If you have time in your interview, read your newspapers daily. You can look up to some apps like InShots. There are many profiles on Instagram as well, so you can read all these stuff from there too. So the next important part in your interview is your extempore. You'll be given a topic and then you'll have 20 to 30 seconds to prepare, and you'll be speaking on it for another 60 seconds. So make sure that you listen to the topic that they have given to you very carefully. If you are not very sure of it, you can ask them politely to change it. The key to crack your extempore is to speak fluently, and secondly to know what you are speaking. What they are looking for is your confidence and not what you are saying. Your content matters a bit less than how well you are speaking. So make sure that you are fluent And don't get nervous. Just even if they are not listening to you, sometimes it happens that they will just start talking to each other just to make you nervous, but you have to make sure that you do not stop in between. Complete whatever you want to say. We have discussed about all the three types of questions that are asked in an interview. Another important part is your introduction. This is an icebreaker question, and the interviewer has a purpose behind asking this. One is that they want to know some basic details about you, and second, they want you to get comfortable to the situation going on in the interview hall. So many people think that they can go unprepared for the introduction. They obviously know about themselves, so they can speak just on the spot and spontaneously. But this is the biggest mistake that they do, and in the very beginning of the interview only. You should have a basic framework of what all you want to convey to the interviewer. Make sure that you don't go too much into detail about your personal stuff. The interviewer might not just be interested in knowing all that. And also, if you are mentioning something in your introduction, be ready to answer questions on that, because the next question the interviewer would be asking would be related to what you spoke in the introduction. If you want you lead your interview, so if you want the interviewer to ask a particular question, then try to mention that in your introduction. For example, if you have a keen interest in dancing and you are mentioning that in your introduction, the interviewer would surely ask you questions on that, and make sure that you don't just go blank on that, because that is what you mentioned, you like doing it, so you should know about it. Remember that you lead your interview, so whatever you want the interviewer to ask you next, just mention it in your introduction. A basic framework would be including your name, from where you completed your studies, your achievements in the school, and your hobbies, and one or two lines about your family. That's it. So, yeah, that was all about the interview. I would like to share with you my personal experience of the interview. I'm currently studying at IIM Rohtak. So they started off by asking me to introduce myself, and this asked me how was my day and all that general stuff, just so that I get comfortable to them. And then we moved on to the academic questions. I was mainly asked questions on mathematics and economics. Since I had applied maths, they asked me something about trigonometry. I was not very confident about it because I had never studied it. So I told them that I had not studied trigonometry in my 11th and 12th. So they asked me another question, and then I was asked a lot of questions about drawing graphs on a paper. So in economics also, they asked me to draw total cost function. Then there were some basic questions from accountancy and business studies as well. They told me to list all the principles of FAOL. After that, we moved on to the extempore. They first gave me OpenAI as my topic, but then that was when ChatGPT had just stepped in our lives, so I was not very aware of it. They asked me if I'm not comfortable with the topic, they can change it. So then they gave me the topic, is greed good? That was a very general topic, so I was able to speak well. So that was all about what all is asked in an interview. Now let's move on to some of the tips that would make you confident while appearing for the interview.
So guys, now you know about how to prepare for the interview process. But the more important part is to give more and more mocks, because that will help you to improve your shortcomings, and the feedback really matters. So for that, join ExamNest, which provides good quality mock interview preparations. So by joining our interview series, you get expert advices for your profile building, and mock interview sessions with industry experts and the students studying in the IM. So the feedback from the experts will really help you, and you get all these things at just rupees 3500. So it's not only about the so it's not only about the interview preparations, but it's also about improving your communication skills, because that will matter ahead in your future. So if you want to ace your interview preparations, join exam. Okay. So another important thing to keep in mind is don't mention your strengths and weaknesses बिल्कुल ऐसे आगे से. If they ask, then mention कर सकते weaknesses mention in. Also you can tell your in the learning experiences, they all which keep on improving. throughout the interview keep a good smile on your face. इससे interviewers को ऐसा लगेगा कि the candidate is not in a panic situation और वो nervous नहीं हो रहा है, and that will create a very good impression of you throughout the interview. So smile throughout. So now some tips which you should keep in mind for your interviews. First of all, if you have an online interview, then make sure all the technicalities are working well. Your speakers, microphones, camera, sub, they're in a good position. Also dress well properly in formals. White shirt, coat and tie recommended for boys. Also clean shave is mandatory for all the boys. अगर इंटरव्यूज ऑफलाइन है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल आई एम रोहतक इज कंडक्टिंग ऑफलाइन इंटरव्यूज दिस टाइम, रांची का भी इंटरव्यू ऑफलाइन है, देन मेक श्योर यू आर ड्रेस प्रॉपरली इन फॉर्मल्स विद योर गुड फॉर्मल शूज ऑल्सो. आपका बॉडी लैंग्वेज बिल्कुल सही है वहाँ पे, आप अपने आप को खुद अच्छे से प्रेजेंट कर रहे हो, बिकॉज जितना what you speak उससे ज़्यादा important है how you are presenting yourself at that time if you are in an offline interview. These were all something from our side, our interview experiences and some tips. Hope you find this video helpful. So just keep in mind one thing: be natural throughout your interview, throughout your main interview. Don't feel panic. The interviewer is there to select you and to not reject you, but give them some reasons ताकि वो आपको select कर सके. Just keep in mind some things, some final tips. Be confident throughout the interview. Keep a good smile and be honest. And don't panic. Nervous मत होना. Interview अच्छा ही जाएगा. You have come this far. आगे भी सब अच्छा ही होगा. Hope you get your final selections in your dream colleges. Thank you. And if you have any doubts related to interview, you can ask us in the comment section. Also, you can join us you can join ExamNest for our interview preparations. Thank you. All the best for your interviews and happy learning.